I'm so delighted to welcome you to part two of our celebration of August Wilson this Black History Month, American playwright, an extraordinary man in every respect, not least for a theater, the August Wilson Theater. And I welcome back Joan Harrington, who is the director of the School of Theater and Dance at Western Michigan University and an author of a book about August's playwriting process called I Ain't Sorry for Nothing I Done, and maintained a long friendship with August Wilson after being a dramaturge on Fences. About that friendship, 23 years, was it, Joan?
Yeah, just about. You know, I met him in 1982, and we were friends until his passing.
We left the folks hanging on the cliff of dialogue last week, talking about the extraordinary operatic, if you will, rhythmic, poetic dialogue that August Wilson is noted for. And I thought it might be interesting to replay a comment or his take on, how he began and where he arrived. Listen to this.
I couldn't write dialogue, and the reason I couldn't write dialogue is because I was not, I didn't see the value in the way Black spoke. I thought you had to change it in order to make it into art. And I asked my friend Rob Penny, who's a playwright, how do you make them talk? And he said, you don't, you listen to them.
Yeah, so he listened to them, and he listened real well, didn't he?
Yes, and it was, it was great. You could actually occasionally be with August, and he would his face would change, and he would just almost like leave the moment, and you would realize that one of his characters or a future character was speaking to him. And I don't want to make him sound, crazy. It was just incredible. Just learning, he would just hear voices as you were walking through New York City. You'd stop at a corner and you'd hear voices, and he would hear voices, and you could watch him listening to that voice, and that voice becoming a character in his head. And he'd take out a little piece of paper or a napkin that he's taken from the diner where you had had lunch, and he'd write some things down, and he'd shove it in his pocket, and then his desk would be covered with little pieces of paper and napkins where he had written down just brilliant pieces of dialogue that would later find their way into his plays. Just very exciting to be around that, as you can imagine.
I mean, he began as a poet, and do you see some influences of the poet? I mean, obviously in the poetic dialogue.
He began as a poet, but it was really, ironically, when he talks about his history and his growing up, and he loved to stand on the corner where the older gentlemen would stand and tell their stories during the day. And he loved to hang out in a diner where people would come in all day long, and he would listen to their stories. So he had been listening to stories for all of his life, but it wasn't until, in that quote that his friend Rob Penny suggested that in listening to those stories was the key to creating his characters and allowing them to speak, that he was able to put together something he had been doing for a very long time with his artistry.
Let's listen to one of August Wilson's beloved characters, Aunt Esther. And this is an aria, this is dialogue, this is August Wilson. Listen to this.
That's a city. It's only a half a mile by half a mile, but that's a city. It's made of bones, pearly white bones. All the buildings and everything made of bones. I seen it. I've been there, Mr. Citizen. My mother lived there. I got an aunt and 3 uncles live down there in that city made of bones. You want to go there, Mr. Citizen? I could take you there if you want to go. That is the center of the world. In time, it will all come to light. The people made a kingdom out of nothing. They were the people that didn't make it cross the ocean.
That is Felicia Rashad doing a dramatic interpretation, I guess, if you will, for Masterpiece Theater. Tell us, Joan, who's Aunt Esther, and we'll also talk about the City of Bones.
Well, A Gem of the Ocean, from which that quote is taken, is the first August Wilson play in which Aunt Esther appears, although she's referenced in several of others, and she dies during King Hedley. And she's 300-something years old already by the time Gem of the Ocean appears. And she, for August, just really metaphorically represents what we had been discussing in the last show, which is that the cultural connection, the connection to where you have come from, which is why in the quote you just played, she's talking about the City of Bones and the importance for African Americans to recognize their connection to their passage from Africa, the whole Middle Passage, and what that experience was. That the City of Bones is also referenced in Joe Turner's Come and Gone, when Loomis must reconnect to that past in order to find and rebuild his spirit. So she really encapsulates for Wilson just that connection to history that is so crucial. And in King Hedley, it has disintegrated so much. The quote is that her house is still there, but the walk up to it is all overgrown with weeds, and she dies almost as if from neglect.
Yeah.
A really, really dark moment in that play.
Where does give me a thumbnail of Gem of the Ocean and its theme?
Well, Gem of the Ocean, which is the earliest play in Wilson's 10-play cycle, chronologically, she's actually speaking at that moment to a young man who has committed a crime of which another man is accused, and that other man loses his life in that process. So it's really about what life is like for these African Americans who have just recently come north. And what that world is for them. So it's really August's first exploration, although his second to last play in the cycle, of what it meant to move out of the Southern culture and into the Northern culture.
You mentioned the play King Hedley, and earlier conversation we had, you said for you, it's the play that you'd most like to see now in these times.
I think it explores a lot of themes in terms of violence on the Black community by the white community. There's a really, really wrenching moment in the play where one of the central characters chooses not to go through with a pregnancy because she does not want to bring a child into the world in which young Black men are killed. So there's I think a tremendous resonance and a real exploration of what happens when, again, you lose that cultural connection. There's also the character of King Hedley in the play trying to reconnect to a more ritualistic past and allow that to infuse the present.
Is it King Hedley? Maybe I have characters mixed up here now. Is it that character who has experienced just extraordinary injustice? Is he the one who is not even permitted to pick up photographs at the store where they're processed because he's Black?
Yes. Well, he has to. The difference is that when the character from that play goes into whatever one of those photo centers where you have family photos, the amount of paperwork they ask him to produce to prove that those are his pictures is obviously not the same amount of paperwork that they're asking of the guy behind him in line.
Yeah. We talked earlier a little bit, not enough, I think, about Piano Lesson and the extraordinary, the music and the characters getting into, I guess, an African chant there at the beginning, as I recall, at the beginning of the second act, very early in the second act.
That's Joe Turner's Come and Gone.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Joe Turner's Come and Gone. They do a Juba dance in the kitchen.
Okay.
That play. In Piano Lesson, they have in their house a piano that's been carved with images of their ancestors who died during slavery. And it's about their relationship with the ghosts of their ancestors. And so there's a brother-sister at the core of that play, and the brother wants to sell the piano, and the sister refuses to sell it, even though she is unable to play it because she's afraid of raising those spirits.
Mm. When I saw it, just a personal reflection, and Charles Dutton played Boy Willie, electrifying.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I don't remember who played Bernice. Could it have been Viola Davis?
No, I think Seven Guitars was the first play that Viola Davis was in.
In any case, that juxtaposition of the brother who wants to sell the piano for the money to buy the land down south where the family once lived, and Bernice, as you say, the sister, who is adamantly against it and will not allow him to do that. And yet, by the end, and as you say, can't play the piano because she's afraid of what it might raise. But at the end, we see her playing the piano. What has happened?
She does. At the end of the play, Boy Willie is wrestling with the ghost of the white landowner who enslaved their ancestors. And the only way that she can empower him, she realizes, is to play the piano and to allow those spirits to come forward. So at the end of the play, she plays the piano.
You mentioned Joe Turner. Joe Turner's come and gone. I think you referred to it, or others that I've heard have referred to it as August Wilson's favorite play. Why is that right? And why would that have been?
He would occasionally say that, and I think I don't know. I'm not really sure why it's his favorite. It's a spectacular play. It is actually my favorite.
Tell me why it's your favorite.
I just think it's blending of its mystical qualities and the power of the mysticism and the power of ritual and the power of your connection to the past, as we've been discussing, is so present in that play, so tangible in that play that it has a really, really exceptional energy, I think.
And this Joe Turner is a reference to what? A former Southern sheriff whose name really was Turney, I think.
Joe Turney, who was a landowner who, following the end of slavery, captured Black men who were doing illegal things, mostly shooting dice, and in penance for their crime, they would serve 7 years on his farm. And so the character of Loomis has been captured by Joe Turner and has served his 7 years. And while he was serving Joe Turney, his wife and daughter left where he had their home. And so he has come north searching for them.
What should we call this cycle? It's been called the Pittsburgh cycle. It's been called the American
cycle. The century cycle is probably its most common name.
Yeah.
When August wrote Ma Rainey, actually the first play he wrote was Jitney, although it really didn't come to attention until later on. But he was pretty far into it before he decided he was going to write a play for every decade. That was not the plan at the beginning. There was no plan at the beginning to write 10 plays.
But he also, from reading your book, I mean, he also seemed to be. It was almost as if he had a play in mind while he was finishing, putting the one he's working on now. But he's already got the next one. He seemed to be busy all the time. He
wrote all the time, and but it also takes he'd write a play, and then it might be developed at the O'Neill Center, and then it would have maybe a production at Yale, and then maybe at the Goodman or the Hunt, and then it would come to Broadway. So it could be a period of over 2 years while he was working on that one, which was way too long for August to wait to begin to write another one.
The play that I, as an example, any audience member might have seen at Yale or at the theater in St. Paul. By the time it came to Broadway, it was a different play. I mean, he didn't stop working on these as they first were produced.
No, August wrote all the way through, informed by watching them in rehearsal. August would sit in rehearsal. He would do a great thing where he would sometimes say the line with the actor if he didn't like the way the actor was saying the line, not loud enough for them to hear, but just so he could hear the line in the way he wanted to hear it. So he was constantly rewriting, working with his directors, working with the dramaturgs and the actors at the different theaters and honing, and, so that by the time they reached Broadway, a lot of them were very different.
I want to talk about August's biography a little bit and how he got started, and also any more that you'd like to mention about working with him. But I also want us to get to a rich discussion, if you will, of his legacy, what he means to the American theater. But let's start with how many times do we have to hear stories of kids? August Wilson's in high school, and he writes a paper, I guess it is, about Napoleon.
Yep, he writes in ninth, 10th grade. He writes a paper about Napoleon, and his teacher tells her that she just thinks it's really too good for a Black kid to have written, so he must have copied it from somewhere.
And his response, as I recall, is to leave school.
Correct. That is his last day in school.
Yeah.
And instead, he moves himself into the library and begins to read what had not really been part of his education before that, which was books and plays and poetry and written by African Americans. And
he and a friend begin or establish a theater in Pittsburgh.
Right.
In the Hill District.
He's not writing plays at this point, as you pointed out earlier. He has written some poetry. And I will just include, for people who don't know, that when August Wilson died, his widow, Constanza, found scattered throughout their house over 700 poems that August had written.
Oh, my heaven.
Many of which she had never read. And certainly the world had never seen very many of them. We're hopeful that she's working on a book that will include a number of them for publication. So that will be a great gift.
Yeah, I hope there's a book coming from that. Let's talk about his legacy. I don't think it's too much to say that this is a man who transformed the American theater.
Yes, he did. And his influence on writers of color who came after him and who continued to write. There's just a real quick story, if you have time. It's Susie Laurie Parks was talking once about how she had been asked by American Theater Magazine to do an interview with August. And she had called him to set it up, and then it got canceled. And then she had called him again, on the day that it was supposed to happen. And he said, well, I'm not feeling very well. And the way she tells it, she was a little like, well, just a little aggravated. That was the second time. And he told her at that moment that he was dying, that he had his cancer diagnosis had just been received. And according to Susan Laurie Parks, she was unable to ask him any more questions in the interview because she just could not regain her composure, because the impact for her of the impending loss of this artist was so profound that she could not speak. And August just proceeded to answer the questions that she wasn't asking. And when she told this story, her humility in terms of what her place was compared to where August's place was. And this was Susie Laurie Parks, who had already more than established herself as a brilliant, brilliant artist in her own right. But for her, where August stood was so important in terms of what he had done for her and what he had done for other artists of color in terms of making space, that she just could not imagine her world without him.
Extraordinary. That's a wonderful story. When I said transformed American theater, I was thinking of a piece I read by Maya Phillips, who is the A critic for the New York Times, and who wrote about, theater, American theater was dominated by white men by the name of Miller and Arthur Miller and Tennessee Williams and Eugene O'Neill, and writing about white men and women, and they kind of controlled it all. And all of them exploring, I think, all of those men, thus playwrights exploring the failures and the limitations of the American dream. And here comes August Wilson to do the same thing, but to enlarge the stage for that theme.
Yes, I think so. And I think he did that. And I think that, he was for many years, he may still be the most produced playwright in America. But we also have to recognize that the industry is still incredibly dominated by white men. That while August Wilson did make space, he did not really change the face of the industry as we know it. I mean, I'm hopeful that this year may have a little bit more lasting impact, but I think August would find even now that the theater is still pretty white.
Yes, of course. On that theme or that point about the American dream, and in Maya Phillips' way of expressing it, in terms of how she feels what August Wilson brought to the equation, was that the American dream was never something that the Black American was going to realize, because essentially of racism. It was going to be denied to them no matter what they did, pretty much.
Pretty much. Yep. That's what that and August sort of explores that in play after play. Absolutely.
What about his influence on Black actors? I mean, you got, these people who, I don't know if it's fair to say many of our prominent Black actors got their first major role in an August Wilson play, but I think it's close.
I don't know. I don't know that I'd say their first major role, but certainly one that they valued. There were a number of actors who were in those early works who were known as the Wilsonians. A lot of the original Rock Dutton, who was also played Levy, by the way. So there was a number of actors who moved around within the plays and did quite a few of them. So I would say that August certainly provided to Black actors some exceptional opportunities in the characters that he drew.
We're talking about Viola Davis, we're talking about Angela Bassett, we're talking about James Earl Jones and Courtney B. Vance and Denzel Washington. I mean, and Denzel now producing, I think all for Netflix, the intention is to produce all 10 plays.
That's correct.
I mean, to film all 10 plays.
I think when Fences was returned to Broadway with Viola, I think that was the first time that Denzel had played a Wilson character in that Broadway production. And then he reprised the role when they made the film of Fences. And yes, the plan is to make a film of each of the 10 plays in the cycle.
And I think you told me the next one that they're working on, or maybe the next one they plan to film, I don't know if filming has begun, is Piano Lesson.
There hasn't been any official announcement. That's my good guess.
Oh, okay. I'd love to see that again. It's a feeling I have. I mean, here in New York, and the theater is closed, and we miss it, along with so much else we miss at this particular time. But I have over the years lamented the fact that there is, wanting to see a production again depends on the fates of, is somebody going to produce a new version of it. I don't understand why the library at Lincoln Center didn't videotape more of these or film more of these wonderful plays by August Wilson and everybody else. It should be a library. I should be able to get a DVD anytime I want it of any play I want to see, but at least I guess with Netflix, we're going to be seeing the August Wilson canon.
Yes, we will. In their film version, they're not the original scripts exactly.
No.
They're pretty close, but there was some things were added to Ma Rainey, and some things were left out for time's sake, probably.
Yeah, it's a very nifty 90 minutes, I think. What did you think of it?
I thought it was a very powerful film. I liked some of the things that they added, the opening scene, all of the stuff in the South, the closing scene, spoiler alert for people who haven't seen it, with the white band performing Levy's music. That's not in the play. There's a sort of a delicious ambiguity in the play where you pretty much know that he's been taken by Sturtevant, but you can't quite put your finger on it for sure. Whereas in the movie, they told you for sure. There's a spectacular metaphoric moment well, it's actually ongoing through the play, where Levy is trying to get that door open. You know, if you have, you see, you know, he's struggling to get through the door, and he gets through the door, and he's in the shaft. There's no place for him to go, and he's surrounded by brick. And it's just a stunning, really, metaphor for what's to come in the play that he doesn't know yet. And the performances are exceptional, and the cinematography is beautiful. I missed every word that was removed, but that's because I'm a Wilson geek. So I missed every word, since, you know, I knew where it was missing. And I think one of the things that was sacrificed a little bit was the character. It becomes a little bit more of a two-person movie about Levy and Ma. The lives of the band members, which were much richer in the play, are not as prominent in the film. So I missed that, but I think it's a very successful. I think Rubin and George C. Wolfe really did exceptional service. They're both, you know, Rubin is tight with Wilson's work, and so I value that that the script was in his hands.
Well, I value the fact that I have had an extraordinary Wilson geek to lead me through this appreciation of a great American artist, August Wilson. And Joan Harrington, I thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always my pleasure to talk about August.
Anytime. We'll do it again as soon as the next film comes out.
All righty. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Joan.